Most people are vaguely familiar with the story of Netflix. It's the kind of David and Goliath story that the general public loves. The scrappy startup, new, young, and fresh, versus the old guard, Blockbuster and cable, bloated, stodgy, and unwilling to change. So how do we get to where we are today? How did we get to the point when Netflix became the very Goliath it once slew? We have this image of a young, hungry company fighting to take down the big guy by mailing DVDs out from their mother's garage and living life on their own terms. But the truth is, both of its founders were already no strangers to success. Mark Randolph and Reed Hastings were enjoying success in high-level, high-pay positions in Silicon Valley. But they wanted to be more than the sum of their parts. They had that all-American attitude of paving your own path by throwing off the shackles of working for someone else and building something from scratch. It's funny to look back at that time in history. It feels almost quaint. Their initial idea was to ship out VHS tapes. As Mark Randolph had been a founder of a previous mail-order company, the simplest solution is always to stick to what you know. But when faced with the logistical realities of such an endeavor, it was made clear that this was a dead end. The newfangled DVD would be the answer. Cheaper to ship, easier to store, and it never hurts to be offering the new sexy technology. However, the romantic ideas of creating your own company are usually quickly smothered by the stressful realities of company management. It would be nice to say that they came out as a smash hit, instantly rising to the top and making millions of dollars, but the truth is even a company that seems to have a large install base and a product that people are itching to buy doesn't always equate to profitability. Still, Netflix was a growing company, and from the outside, all seemed well. But it wasn't without its setbacks. A devastating blow to the company was already on the horizon. Towards the end of the summer of 2000, Silicon Valley would be brought to its knees by the burst of the dot-com bubble. The bubble that had allowed billions to be made throughout the 90s was coming to an end. Though this was mainly caused by unstable companies or those without oversight, the ripples would be felt by everyone in it. In an act of self-preservation, the two founders considered selling their fledgling company. At this moment, David would approach Goliath. It's impossible to overstate just how prominent Blockbuster was at this time. They were the undisputed king of at-home entertainment. They had everything from movies to video games, VHS players to Super Nintendo. They even had movie snacks as the cherry on top. They were your one-stop shop for rentals. So they had no interest in buying Netflix. They were brick and mortar, and dot-coms had just proven that this internet thing was merely a fad. There was no need to evolve, because who could possibly challenge them? For John Antioco, the CEO of Blockbuster, Netflix's offering of a $50 million buyout was a joke. But Netflix wouldn't have to wait long to be proven right. The hunger for DVDs and online services exploded in the 2000s. By 2002, they went public, and by 2005, they were posting profits of nearly $500 million. Their crushing sling were the patents they were granted for online DVD distribution. Blockbuster would soon look around and see their customers flocking away. They tried to compete by offering their own DVD distribution, Goliath's one last charge. But the battlefield would ultimately be the courts, where David would wield their sling of patents and strike hard at Goliath, slaying the giant. This is one of those moments in history where the choices people make really matter. We have the luxury of hindsight. We know this was a bad decision. We know this part of the story. There's no twist ending here. The CEO always makes the same choice, and every time we shake our head. But we can imagine a world where Blockbuster is still the king, where Blockbuster ushered us into this new era of streaming, where we cuddle up on the couch every night to watch the next episode of the newest Blockbuster original series. But that's not the world we live in. Through an unwillingness to change and adapt, they slowly, unceremoniously faded into bankruptcy and became a cautionary tale for the history books. The king is dead. Long live the king. The next decade was nothing but win after win for Netflix. The rise of streaming allowed them to offer more movies in more convenient ways to more customers. It was a recipe for nearly unlimited success. People began cable cutting. Gone were the days of 999 channels and nothing on. Now you could watch what you wanted, when you wanted, wherever you wanted. They continued to expand their offerings. Since it wasn't good enough to sell you just other people's content, there were fees and licenses to consider, so you couldn't guarantee permanent homes for everyone's favorite shows and movies. Unless, that is, you make them yourself, cutting out the middleman. Make original content, because who cares about anyone else's show? So that's exactly what they did, and their first few originals were met with universal acclaim. No one could touch them, no one was in their way. Stop me if you've heard this one before. It's hard to overstate just how prominent Netflix was at this time. They were the undisputed king of at-home entertainment. But that's the thing with the business world. If someone sees you with a pie, they start scheming ways to get themselves a piece. It wasn't long before other streaming services started popping up, and it wasn't long before the pie wasn't so big anymore. To move forwards, we need to learn from our past. There was another, lesser-known offer to buy Netflix, at around the same time as the Blockbuster sale was going on. Enter this man, Jeff Bezos, well-known entrepreneur, and like any entrepreneur worth his salt, he was looking to the future. He offered to purchase Netflix in 1998, and fearing competition, Mark Randolph wanted to accept the offer. But Hastings, who owned 70% of the company, turned it down on the plane ride home. Once again, a small company that started out of a garage and grew into quite a behemoth would offer the new Goliath some competition. But this time, it wouldn't just be outsiders coming for the crown. Companies that had previously worked with Netflix now were repossessing their libraries of content to create their own services. Netflix was and still is bleeding content. They lost Marvel and Star Wars to Disney+. CBS took all of their legacy programming to create their own service, which also offers live TV. NBC decided that The Office needed its own home far from Netflix. Now, instead of cutting the cables, they've created a situation that just feels like cable light. But they should be safeguarded, right? Their original content was designed to be their safety net. The problem is, they've thrown too many things at the wall with moderate stickage. It's been a long-running meme that anyone could get a Netflix original, and saying the average quality of Netflix originals is on the low end would be an understatement. It's unfair to say that all of their stuff is bad. There's definitely a few hits every now and again, but by following in Netflix's footsteps, there are a million streaming services churning out thousands of hours worth of content. 999 services and nothing to watch. So this brings us to today. 2022 was a terrible year for Netflix. Their stock dropped at an unprecedented rate. They had a net loss of subscribers during a year they projected exceptional growth. They began a crackdown on password sharing that punished and inconvenienced more loyal customers than fraudulent ones. They continue to lose content to other services, and their originals continue to be a mixed bag. Yet, they remain on top, without question. Goliath is bleeding, but not down. Will there be a new David to wield a sling and be crowned king? Is David already climbing up the ladder of success? Will it be someone new? Someone who comes in and shakes up the home entertainment market, leaving old, stodgy Netflix to rot next to the corpse of Blockbuster? It's honestly hard to say. We're still in the middle of a story that never ends. But in recent years, you can't help but feel that Netflix has forgotten their roots as a small, spunky upstart. And history may be doomed to repeat itself if they continue to be too comfortable at the top.